Shmuel didn't write Haftarah. Haftarat Korach. The prophets didn't write Haftarot. I realize that the average learner might find this statement a bit confusing. After all, the Haftarot are taken from the books of the prophets, and we traditionally assume that those were written by the prophets themselves. So let me rephrase my opening line. While all the Haftarot were indeed written by prophets, the prophets themselves didn't write Haftarot. They wrote prophecies, which later on were selected and adapted to fit the messages that the sages chose to pair with specific Torah portions. It is, however, rare to find a prophecy that truly mirrors its corresponding parasha. Prophets, as I might have already said, didn't write Haftarot. I believe the Haftarah for Parashat Korach really sharpens this insight. On the surface, it all fits. The parasha, we witness an attempt to replace Moshe's leadership. In Shmuel Aleph, Perek Yudbet, the prophet Shmuel rebukes the nation for choosing to replace him with a king. Toss into the mix Moshe's declaration, "I have not taken a single donkey from them," with Shmuel's echoing claim, "Whose ox have I taken, whose donkey have I taken?" and Shmuel's comparison between Hashem, who appointed Moshe and Aaron, and Hashem, who appointed him, and you've got a rich soil for growing a fine Haftarah. But, and there always has to be a but, the problem begins when Shmuel himself seems to imply that his message has nothing to do with the parasha. What do I mean? Simple. In his rebuke, Shmuel refers to two main historical periods: the Exodus, led by Moshe and Aaron, and the time of the judges, Yerubbaal, Yiftach, Bedan, and Shmuel. These two eras share a common pattern. The nation is in distress. Hashem sends a messenger and Israel is saved. This, it seems, is Shmuel's core message. Just as Hashem sent Moshe and Aaron, so too has he sent me. Why would you want to replace me? But if that's indeed his message, wouldn't the story of Korach and his assembly set the perfect example? As you may have noticed, that's not the example Shmuel gives. For him, the wilderness, the Midbar, is free of conflict. The trouble starts when Israel forgets Hashem and he hands them over to Sisera and others. The people cry out, and the judges, ending with Shmuel, save them time and time again. Where should I continue from here? Should I claim that Shmuel deliberately avoided referencing Korach, trying to frame his own leadership in the idyllic light of Moshe's era? Or perhaps he was actually drawing a comparison and not a contrast? Look, Shmuel might be saying, from Moshe to Shmuel, divine messengers led the nation. The real danger begins when there is no messenger at all, so why change that now? My answer, it doesn't really matter. From the Haftarah's perspective, both interpretive directions lead us back to my original claim. Korach simply doesn't interest Shmuel, at least not in this Haftarah. He mentions Moshe and Aaron as stable leaders and not as figures the people impudently tried to remove. This leads me to a better question. Can I find or invent a different message that the sages intended by choosing this Haftarah? Please act surprised when I say I think I can. While commentators often debate Shmuel's motivations for negativity while discussing the larger story of the leadership transition from him to Shaul, for anyone reading just the Haftarah, I think the message is clear. As I see it, Shmuel isn't troubled by the change in leadership or even the shift in governmental structure. He's troubled by the meaning behind that change. His main point isn't that monarchy is dangerous, but that every past leader was sent by Hashem, not chosen by the people, or at least not only chosen by the people. Statistically, despite the heavy presence of Shmuel, 7 times in the Haftarah, and king or monarchy, 14 times, the dominant term in the Haftarah is Hashem's name, appearing 30 times, about 1.5 times in every verse. We're talking about 4 times more than any other place in Tanakh. And that's not just my opinion. Shmuel says this outright, multiple times, compared to chapter 7, where Shmuel doesn't hear Hashem's name mentioned once. Shmuel has to mention it again and again and again and again and again, and multiply that and reach 30. In my view, even if Korach might have disagreed, this is precisely the message the sages wanted to highlight with this Haftarah. At first glance, there's a huge gap between Korach's rebellion and the elders' request from Shmuel. The elders, as I mentioned, don't mention Hashem at all in their request for a king. Shmuel's concern seems well-founded. Korach, on the other hand, comes in Hashem's name. The entire assembly is holy and Hashem is among them. A casual reader might miss Moshe's key response, "You and your assembly are banding together against against Hashem. Sometimes Hashem is ignored even when his name is being yelled at the top of one's lung. So, if we return to where we began, perhaps Shmuel didn't write the Haftarah, but unsurprisingly, he gave the sages just what they were looking for. In memory of my beloved student Amishchai Shimon ben Ishai and Batya Rubin Hashem Yikom Damo, Dovi Holtz, one who loves Tanakh.